All right, and we are live. Hi, everyone, and welcome again to Connected Learning TV. This is our final webinar in a special 2-month-long series titled Post-Connected Educator Month, A Connected Mindset, and it's also the final webinar for us of the 2014 calendar year. So thanks to everybody here who's joined us, and Cheryl, do you want to start us off real quick?
Sure. I'm excited to be here, especially with the guest we have today, and of course with my co-host, John. So I'm Cheryl Nussbaum Beach. For those of you that don't know who I am, I'm the co-founder of Powerful Learning Practice, and I'm also the co-chair for the recent Connected Educator Month. I'll be working today in this webinar with John Barilloni. Did I get it right that time, John? Barilloni? Great Italian name. Good. And throughout all of these series, the last ones that we've done, I think this is our 4th one in the series, and our final one today, we've been introducing you to some of the insights, the best practices, and different kinds of memories that have come out of Connected Educator Month that we had back in October. So if you're getting ready to watch this with us, please tweet it out. We're using hashtag CE14, so CE14, and we'd love for you to get the word out and get other people to come and participate with us. We'll be reflecting not only on the great things going on in Nashville Public Schools, but also reminiscing about Connected Educator Month. John?
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. And today we're chatting specifically, like Cheryl mentioned, with a couple of people who are the leaders of the whole community engagement theme from Connected Educator Month. And as is typical here on Connected Learning TV, before we get going into all the good stuff, let's just go over a couple quick details. So those who are watching us live right now, we really welcome your comments and your questions either via the Twitter hashtag that Cheryl mentioned, CE14, that's CE numbers 1 and 4, or via the Google Plus event page. And we'll do our best to pull in any questions and comments that you guys have and address them here in the Google Plus Hangout. And we're also chatting throughout the month, again on Google Plus, in the Connected Learning community. So if you search for the Connected Learning community on Google Plus, hopefully you'll connect in there and make some new friends. So I'd like to give our guests a quick chance to introduce themselves, and apologies in advance, they're dealing with a little bit of limited bandwidth, so it's just going to be audio. But Keisha, do you want to go ahead and start us off there?
Yes. Hello, everybody. This is Keisha Ray, and I am the Executive Director of Learning Technology and Library Sciences in Nashville Public Schools. And I'm joined by Stephanie Ham, our illustrious lead librarian, who will explain her title and what she does.
Hello, everyone. I am Stephanie Ham, and as Keisha said, I am the lead librarian for Metro Nashville Public Schools, and I have the privilege to work along Dr. Ray every day as we transform Nashville schools.
Thank you, Stephanie. And you are seeing our pictures because we are still at work in our offices, and we apologize in advance, but our bandwidth is somewhat restricted with video. So
no worries, we will make do. And good timing because it looks like we're also joined here by Tom DeVore.
So Tom, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, that would be great. And Tom is also co-moderating with us this evening.
Hi, yes, great to be here. Keisha, Stephanie, great to see you again. Actually, I don't know if this may be the first time we've actually seen each other. And really thrilled to be here. Kudos to John for organizing this entire series, which I think has been fantastic and a really great way to wrap up Connected Educator Month. I work closely with Cheryl on CEM. I've been involved with the Connected Educators Initiative since it started, and I've been involved with online communities in education since the early 90s. Terrific to be here. This is a topic that I think is really important. I was thrilled that it was chosen as one of the themes for this year's event, and thrilled that we have Keisha and Stephanie here with us, who have been modeling this in the Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools for some time now.
Thank you so much, Tom. This was one of the topics that I believe you were most passionate about, so we're thrilled that Keisha and Stephanie can come and talk a little bit about what happened. So let's get started with that. Keisha and Stephanie, what I'd love to know is what drew you to Connected Educator Month? I mean, how does the vision of educators connecting with one another speak to you, both personally and then also in your district? So how did you end up being involved in Connected Educator Month?
Well, Cheryl, this is Stephanie, and I will go ahead and start off with that question. We felt very fortunate to be involved in Connected Educator Month. Obviously, with Dr. Ray's role as the board chair for ISTE, she had been very involved and hearing a lot about the program, and we were just fortunate enough to be asked to join. On a personal standpoint, I always, up until probably about 2 years ago, just kind of did a little stalking on Twitter and saw everything happening, not necessarily watching from afar, I guess that you could say what I personally was doing. And as for our district, one thing I'm really proud of that MMPS has embraced is really encouraging educators, principals to really, we're really starting with Twitter and using that to build their PLNs here in Nashville, and we've just really seen a big expansion of that. We've had our first Twitter chat with librarians, and it just seemed like the next step to really push our educators and our teachers and our parents to be involved in Connected Educator Month, and it just seemed like a natural progression for us here in Nashville.
Keisha and Stephanie, I'm wondering, as you sort of experienced the month, what were some of the highlights for you, and what were things that you thought really worked well that you were involved with or led or participated in that you might want to share with the group?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I would say probably one of the things that I was really surprised about is I have lived in Nashville now for 10 years, and just actually starting with the research locally of all the things that our school district does to connect with the community. That was just really eye-opening for me to see how much our academies of Nashville, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, have expanded with community outreach in terms of that, and having a webinar available for educators across the world. That was actually a pretty awesome experience for us to host. I would also say one of the other was just having a lot of research on what other people are doing, large organizations are doing across the country. We received information from, parent groups and the National Education Association, and we're just very, very fortunate to learn a lot and really see where educators can play a large role in supporting communities and parents to be engaged not only with educators directly at schools, but across digital platforms as well.
That's great. Thank you so much for that, Stephanie. Keisha, were there any trends or commonality in conversation, anything that sort of got your ear as we went through the month?
Cheryl, actually, Keisha just ran out real quick, but she'll be right back in. So if we can hold on to that question, then she'll be able to answer that. Actually, she's walking right back in the door, so if you want to ask that question again, she's right here.
Okay. Hey, Keisha.
Hello. Sorry, our boss came in. That's always a reason to leave.
That's okay. We certainly understand that. I was wondering, Stephanie was sharing a little bit about the highlights of the month and some things that really worked, and I was wondering from your perspective, what were the larger issues or the trends or things that really got your attention as you went through Connected Educator Month, either the event as a whole or in particular the way that Nashville Public Schools engaged?
Well, I'm really happy that we were able to engage, so thank you for including us. I think that what is inspiring to me about Connected Educator Month is that it kind of brings all of us together. And this year, I think it may have been the first time, although you would know this better than I, that we've been more universal and global with that approach. But it brings us together around a common purpose to connect educators nationwide and worldwide toward a common purpose of improving communication, improving use of technology, improving connections with parents. You know, it's a movement, and to have it when we have it at the beginning of a school year really helps us get focused on kind of we're part of a bigger community, and more people than just us in our district are struggling with these same issues, and we have people that we can connect with thanks to this wonderful program, that now I'm not alone and I don't have to feel alone. So that was really powerful to me in the just experience. I think for what we did, it was interesting because it's something that we do, but we don't realize we connect community and parents as much. It's kind of interesting that when you do something every day, you kind of forget that you do it. And so we connect a lot with parents and community. That's why I had to step out. I had a community member that wants to schedule a meeting with me, and right now, and I'm not available. But we're so open door with our community members and our parents and our you know, other constituents, that you just kind of make this random assumption that that must be how everybody does it. And so it was really interesting to be reflective on our practices, and then to share what we do with others, but also to pull in organizations that we find very useful and pivotal in our progress, and share them with the rest of the community, the connected learning community, so that they can kind of see what we see and how we use those resources. National PTA was one of our kind of key partners, and NEA. And NEA, you know, we have a member of the executive board that's also in our school district, so we kind of feel like we're on really, you know, like we have a problem, call NEA. So I don't know, we just really appreciated the opportunity, and we really grew from the experience.
Thank you for that very much. I appreciate that. But you're kind of in a unique experience too, in a situation, because you're also the chair for ISTE's board, and so you kind of wore two hats. And it was interesting watching you juggle that as you went through. So, Tom, did you have something you'd like to ask?
I was going to ask, for those who are listening who aren't familiar with all that you've done in the National Public Schools to really model whole community engagement, I wondered if you might want to share a little bit some of the initiatives that you've put forward in Nashville that you're particularly pleased with and proud of in terms of involving parents and other community members in your schools.
So one of the things that we did in 2009, I guess we started it, is we started these huge groups that were called transformational leadership groups. And the transformational leadership groups were 150 people engaged around one topic, but there were 8 topics. So I was, my topic was technology in the classroom, and there were 150 people that were part of that, and they represented all parts of the community. So the faith-based community, the nonprofit community, the for-profit community, people in public schools, private schools, independent schools, church schools, charter schools. We were all around the table because Nashville, from the mayor to the city council to the superintendent to the school board, feels that education is the most important thing our community does. And so from that transformational leadership that we kind of pulled together to transform the district to prevent a state takeover, then we engaged in something called alignment. So a whole nonprofit organization was born out of that, and it's called Alignment Nashville. Now they've replicated that model in a lot of cities nationwide. Their most recent trip was to Hawaii to take the model to Hawaii. And Alignment brings together all the nonprofits in the community around the district strategic plan. So with that, when the district writes a strategic plan, we have kind of action plans that are part of that strategic plan. Our action plan is the learning technology plan, and alignment develops a committee around that plan. And then we, as a school district, are accountable, or I, as the department head, am accountable to that committee that consists of CEOs of companies, members of nonprofits, parents, you know, the vice president of Nissan's on it. So they're, you know, they're very influential in our community, and they participate actively in the direction that I'm going in as a department, to support technology in the classrooms. And from that work, some of our greatest models have kind of come forth. The Academies model is our high school committee. Our high school reform was to implement academies, and they're called career academies, but we had to drop the career name because our public wanted them just to be college and career academies. So we just call them academies, and we have over 250 business partners that are connected to our academies. And I was just in a meeting earlier where they have some, in one of our academies, it's a broadcasting academy, and they have members of the audio-visual field here in Nashville, audio recording, who have won Grammy Awards, that are in our schools, working with our teachers, working with our students, and teaching them how to cut records. And we partnered with Warner Records, who built a studio, a legitimate, you can cut your music here studio in one of our high schools. They designed it, they helped pay for it, and now they send teachers in to teach in it. So it's just incredibly robust what we've been able to do with those partnerships around our academy structure. And then we partnered, our department has partnered with the Nashville Public Library. We have a program called Limitless Libraries, where our kids can check out books from the public library by just going onto a computer in their classroom, and then it's sent to their school, to their classroom, and they get to take it home and check it back when they're done with it. So that program has won national attention, and that partnership has just been so fruitful. The mayor has funded the remodeling of many of our libraries with funds through Limitless. So it's just been a very, just very profound partnership, and we continue to grow these partnerships every day. I've talked to my team just this week about our alignment committee and the people that serve on that committee and what we need to do. They just wrote a grant and were awarded a grant that would allow our students to be interns in their companies. So our students would have transportation to their companies to get real-world experience in their their companies around IT and broadcasting, the academies that I'm personally connected to. So super fruitful. We could not be where we are as a school district if we didn't have the partnerships that we had throughout the community. And just yesterday, the Chamber released our report card. You can find it on Nashville Chamber of Commerce website. And those were things that we got great kudos for, was our learning technology plan and our academy structure. So the community as a whole embraces what we've done, and then they advocate for us. So when we're in a period of flux like we are now with our superintendent retiring, we don't have to worry as much because we know the community surrounds us and in many ways kind of lifts us up and carries us through the challenging times. So.
You really are the poster children, aren't you, for that whole community theme. It makes perfect sense why you would have been so actively involved in that. John, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, along this line of Keisha and Stephanie, it sounds like you haven't had, really any trouble at all selling these different community partners on investing in the school system, in the education system. And I'm wondering if you had any advice for other cities, other communities who haven't gotten to that step yet. Kind of what is that selling proposition for these different employers, these different out-of-school spaces to invest not only financially in education in the school system, but also be in part of the community and discussions and conversations, kind of what's in it for them.
John, that is an excellent question, and this is Stephanie. I should have said, I don't know if everyone heard this, but yes, Keisha and I are on the same computer here, so we want to make sure that we let everyone know who is speaking. But I think that is a great question, and that is something that Nashville has worked really hard in. You know, 5 years ago, I guess, yeah, probably 5 years ago, it's really when we started making that transition. And, you know, it is in a great place now, but it doesn't always start out that way. And I think the best thing that you can do is go to businesses, go to your Chamber of Commerce, and educate them on just what your school system is doing. Highlight those great stories that what teachers are doing, what students are doing. You don't have to ask for finances right away. That's actually not something that we do. You know, it's just through those conversations and those stories, businesses chose to invest in our schools. So I'd say the first thing is to not be scared of going out there, sharing your story, tweet other businesses. You know, you can let them know how you're integrating technology in the classroom and just putting it out there. As I tell the librarians, the worst thing that people can tell me is no. So, you know, let them know what you are doing. And most of the time, people in the business world, they just don't know where to start or who to contact. So if you can be that person to reach out, I would say in both of our cases, it's pretty much been a positive one. They just didn't know who to start with.
Thank you so much for that. That's really interesting, and it's great advice, great practical advice for people to take. So I'm wondering, you know, Keisha, you were talking about before about how you served on, you know, one of those initiatives where the whole community got to really look at this idea of technology's role in education. And I'm curious, in terms of efficiency, how has digital media and the internet really affected the actual, I guess, the practical ways that you are communicating and staying connected and pulling the community members in? Has that played a role? Is that something that has played out, or has it mostly been face-to-face?
Oh no, well, one way that the community has been extremely helpful to us is in unblocking Twitter and YouTube on our internet. So it was something that the teachers wanted. They were pretty passionate about it. They made the ask, and our community at large helped us educate parents on what the real risk would be of unblocking YouTube or Twitter. And so we held a public meeting and nobody showed up. So there were no one was adversarial by the time our community, you know, our partners had communicated out. There was nobody that had any questions. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. I think that what we have seen is our community members, they partner in our schools. So they're in our schools a lot. And they see things in our schools. For example, one of my very favorite people, who's the co-chair of the committee with me, she did a lot of volunteering in the school, and she realized that the students came to high school not knowing how to do Excel. And it upset her terribly. And so rather than just being upset and getting mad, she plugged into the committee, and she said, we've got to fix this problem. And so then we come together and we develop a scope and sequence, and we work with math teachers on how to teach Excel in their curriculum, and she becomes more educated on when it's appropriate to place that in a curriculum or a program of study and when it's not, and that we really don't want Excel to be a class, because nobody goes to work just to do Excel. They go to work to do business analytics, and they happen to use Excel as their tool. And so we're trying to embed the tools in the learning that they're getting to make it contextual. And so she understands that. So then she goes to our program of study and starts picking out all the classes we can incorporate Excel in. So you know, it really just makes us better. And that's exactly what Dr. Register, our superintendent, said yesterday. He said, we love constructive criticism. It doesn't make us bitter, it just makes us better. So we grow from our community members coming into our schools, having a partnership with us. It gives us a chance to give them a deeper understanding of kind of how the bureaucracy of education works, and it gives us a chance to learn what their expectations are of our students when they graduate from high school. So that, you know, keeping that two-way communication is super helpful, and making it a trusting, safe place to have the communication is, I think, what makes us successful.
That's great. Thank you so much.
So I wanted, Keisha and Stephanie, I wanted to build on your Excel example a little bit, because I think one of the things that's sort of a running theme with Connected Educator Month is the frustrations that some connected educators feel about getting their schools and getting district folks, et cetera, to really buy into making more use of technology. And you know, I think we did some research. I'm putting on my Grunwald Associates hat a while ago that found that in schools where parental influence was high in the technology process, those schools were more positive and more interested in virtually every technology, and were using virtually every technology more than in school districts where there was low parental influence. And by the way, this was not, we did the research to determine this was not a sort of an SES dependent finding. It wasn't just, you know, suburban schools that had high technology and high parental involvement. It's not SES, it's SES independent. So my question is have you found that specifically to be one of the effects of having the community involved, that the schools as a whole have more buy-in to using technology? And if that's true, any tips you want to share for frustrated connected educators out there about how to have community members help move their school districts along in the use of technology?
Well, I will start, and then if Stephanie wants to add, she, I'm sure, will want to chime in on this one. So one of the things that we did to get momentum was we of course wrote this learning technology plan, and we shared the plan with the teachers by way of designing an online professional development that they had to take that was 8-module professional development, and it was grounded in our strategic plan. So you've got the district strategic plan, and then from that comes the Learning Technology Action Plan. And every teacher, we have 6,000, every teacher participated. We had 98% participation in that training. And from that, when we surveyed them and said, you know, how many of you, now that you've had this just overview of these are the resources, this is the support, these are the kind of expectation, these are the best practices, how many of you will now go back to your classrooms and do something now that you know where the lifelines are to this transformation? And 83% of them said, we will. So I think that what we did in that practice is we got buy-in from the teachers. We brought together 150 of them to help us design that training. So it was training for teachers, designed by teachers, and provided for and facilitated by teachers. So it wasn't, you know, ivory tower Keisha coming in and telling them what to do and how to do it. I was just the, hey, I know you've got a problem, let me help you solve the problem, girl. The other thing that's kind of given us some momentum is, you know, what the big frustrating factor for many of our schools is the lack of parental involvement. So when you have a school district that is 80% free and reduced lunch, high EL populations, great amount, 70% transient throughout the district, then you can't hang your hat on parent involvement, because you know our parents have to work. They have to probably work 2 or 3 jobs. I mean, people in my department are working 2 or 3 jobs just to be able to make ends meet. So you can't hang your hat on that. So what we have is, in partnership with our public library, we have a person that's dedicated to after-school programs. And we help coordinate those after-school programs in every school. So kids have a place to go, and those are technology-rich programs. So kids have a place to go that gives them more exposure to the technology. Also, in the school during the day, we work with schools, for example, Buena Vista Elementary, 90% free and reduced lunch, 70% mobility, 30% homeless. But we gave every child a laptop, and there's 10 iPads in the classroom. And we concentrated on that school because everyone thinks that children of poverty might not respect the technology, and they always think it's going to get stolen or damaged or whatever. That is absolutely not the case. They respect it, they appreciate it, they know it's their tool for learning, and the parents know. Now, one little perspective that we did have is we asked the parents, now, do you want these to go home? Parents says, no, we don't. We'd rather them stay at school, because when you bring them home, then we're responsible for them, and we're not comfortable with that responsibility. And rather than saying, well, no, we're going to teach you how to be responsible, we said, that's cool. Well, if you need one, let us know, and we'll check it out to you. And so as parents become more comfortable with the program and more aware of their child's kind of progress as a result of the program, then they're asking for them to be checked out and come home. So we don't really we want every school to be equitable. I put a little post on my Facebook that had a picture of 3 kids. There was one picture of 3 kids that were trying to see over a fence to a baseball game, and they had staggered the boxes to where every kid couldn't really see over the fence, but they had the same number of boxes. And in this other picture, they had staggered them to where every kid could see over. And the caption read, equality versus equity. And we want everyone to have, every child should graduate our schools and be able to choose whatever path they want. And if they, for whatever reason, graduate and feel like they can't get into the school or can't get into the program or can't get the job because they don't have the skill set, then shame on us. And we take that very seriously. So I probably bird walked a little bit with that last part, but we don't want the parental involvement to impact the accessibility to technology in the classroom.
And I'm just going to piggyback right on that. I think a lot of times that we assume some of these generations of parents know how to use technology, and I don't think that's always the case as well either. So there might not be the involvement with the technology, or they feel the need for it just because they might not be aware of all the things that are available as well. So I encourage all educators listening and out there, someone can tweet this, I guess, as well, that, when you're having parent meetings, you're having parent-teacher conferences, think about taking a blended approach to that. Have the resources out that students use so parents can be aware and become familiar with it as well. Send a note home in your newsletter that says, check out this app to try with your students at home. Give them the tools, because they might not know where to start, and I think that can be a first step in the direction, even if they might not have an iPad at home or something along those lines. A lot of them have a smartphone, so give them guidance on what they can do with their students just using that smartphone at home as well.
And it starts with a leadership. So for all the connected educators out there that are frustrated, if their leaders aren't modeling good use of technology in faculty meetings or in the way they communicate with staff, then I would, if I were a teacher in that situation, go to them and say, hey, have you thought about tweeting out the announcements, or have you thought about getting a YouTube channel and putting all your announcements in YouTube instead of wasting 15 minutes of everybody's morning? And I know a lot of principals that, nope, they didn't think about it, but as soon as the teacher came to them and said, this would be a good idea, the principal's like, well, can you help me do it? I don't know how to do it. but I would love to do that if you think it would be beneficial for you. No principal wants their teachers to feel like they don't have support, and no principal wants their teachers to feel failure. And so if they think they can change their practice to better support their teachers, 99% of them are up for that.
That's awesome. So from both Keisha and Stephanie, thanks for sharing that kind of call to action or that challenge for both educators and admins to have a more blended or openly networked approach to the learning that's going on in the classroom and kind of enabling others to easily see what's going on as opposed to having it be kind of that four-walled garden or kind of the classroom ends inside the four walls. So I think that's great. I think we're seeing more and more examples of that happening. And Keisha, I did want to tag up on something from one of your earlier points where you talked about this initiative to give kids their own personal devices, whether that's laptops or Chromebooks or what have you. And I know from a recent Hechinger Report article that just came out either today or yesterday, they were talking about some of the stats behind the digital divide and talking about inequity and inequality, especially for disadvantaged kids, that home internet connection is actually one big challenge as opposed to more and more schools giving kids access to devices, but if those devices aren't able to connect reliably to the internet at home, kind of that loses maybe some of the efficacy. So I was wondering, in terms of your experience, and maybe this is just anecdotal from what you've heard, how have you seen community involvement or partner involvement helping bridge that digital divide when it comes to internet access, whether that's in the home or in community spaces? How are partners helping out there?
Well, there's some really cool stuff going on in Kentucky and Alaska. But what we've done, part of our learning technology plan includes a section called Access for All. And we have pulled our community members together and, some of the, quite frankly, wealthiest people in Nashville. And we've said, this is the issue. This is the result. If you have technology, especially in blended classrooms, which is our goal, is to have blended classrooms in every school and every classroom by 2018. So if that's our goal, then kids are going to have access to content at home if they have internet. We needed a whole pillar around access for all. And our community came together and actually created a fund. So people donate to this fund that's managed by an outside entity, and parents can apply for grants through that fund. So that's one way that we've tried to manage the access. We're also working with our big telco vendors to try to figure out how can we provide lower level access, low cost access in the homes. Comcast, of course, does the $9.99, but we know that's a result of a lawsuit, right? So that's eventually gonna go away. And so what's the next thing? What are they gonna do next, or how are we gonna solve this problem? When I had the opportunity to present to the FCC, I made the statement that I think we've come to the point in the US where the internet is actually a utility. So we think of it like gas and water, and now we have to get connectivity to a home. And especially when a lot of homes are going away from telephone lines and moving to communication over internet lines. And so, I think it's a bigger conversation, probably at the federal level, of what that's going to look like and how that should look. I think other countries have done it, and they've been very successful. And I think that when the form to get access to services was put online, and people that were trying to apply for welfare were told to go log into a computer and fill out their form on the internet, we changed the dynamics for that. So I don't really even think it's an education issue. I think it's a society issue. And I think it's much, much bigger than what we can solve in the education space.
Powerful, absolutely powerful from what you're sharing. And I absolutely adore, it's a passion of mine, working with marginalized populations, especially children of poverty. And so listening to you discuss, you know, myths versus truth and all the powerful ways that you're making an impact there just really touches my heart. And thank you for you know, really helping to open those doors instead of shutting them and not perpetuating the myths. So thank you for that. You know, I'm curious. I'm thinking about the whole community theme, and you know, it still is a very rare opportunity that we have, trying to get adults to sit down with adults and to have students sit at the table and have them both discuss educational reform. And I know that you do a lot with student leadership, so I'm wondering, are there best practices when it comes to this intergenerational type dialogue that you could share with others who maybe want to embark on doing some of that? And does technology have a role to play there?
Technology always has a role to play. We just have to figure out what the right role is. Gosh, I don't know, Cheryl. That's a really great question. I think that, you know, kind of community by community, that conversation can shift. I know Pittsburgh and Rhode Island and Nashville and Philadelphia and San Diego all have, and in Hawaii, have similar structures to Nashville. We partner, we are very intentional about our practice to partner, and very intentional about education and children being the responsibility of a community. And you know, I think that what would be interesting, and here's where technology may play a role, is to capture the stories. If somebody could capture the stories of these communities that have very intentionally managed to partner community with parent, with school, and had great positive results from that partnership. If somebody could capture those stories and either run it on a YouTube channel or have it on the, you know, ed.gov site, I don't know where it would go so that people would find it, but I think that could be really amazing, because we've worked through, you know, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, and what technology does is it allows us to see what others have done, and instead of, I mean, that's the wonder of the internet. I don't have to ever have an original thought if I don't want to. I can go online and scroll around and see what's out there, and I can just jump off of that. And so I think a lot of communities, for example, I know Chicago struggles with community engagement and parent involvement. If they could see what Pittsburgh's done and how far Pittsburgh's come, or what we've done, and if they could read those stories and see the anecdotes and see the resources, and not necessarily have to pick up the phone and call somebody or figure out who to call, but just go to a page and read about it and know what to do and how to do it, or at least how to get started, I think that could be powerful. I think, you know, a lot of places, especially as we've rolled out, you know, we'll use the word Common Core, we have seen breakdowns in community. We've seen huge divides between parents and schools, because not it's a bad thing or it's corrupt or evil or it's going to destroy children, but people just don't understand. And the media has messaged it one way and schools have messaged it another, and the parents listen to the media because that's sexier. And so if there was a way that we could have a resource that's available where communities could say, you know, we struggled with this too, and let's do what they did because we can learn from that. You know, when, I'll use a hot topic, which is Ferguson, Nashville was the place of some of the most hostile race relation riots in the 60s. When we saw what was going on in Ferguson, the first thing that many members of our community said was, how can we help them realize that this is not the way for this to go? There's a better way to do this. So we've been there, we've done that. How can we share our knowledge and our learning with them so they don't have to go through the pain? That's kind of the same way with these partnerships. We've done this. If other communities, other school districts, other, whatever, want to learn this, they don't have to start from ground zero.
As you were talking, I couldn't help but thinking, it sounds like we need an online community of practice that could have specific areas of passion where we could tell our stories nationally across school systems, at least across those that maybe are based on location or demographics. Very, very interesting stuff. So Tom?
Yeah, Keisha and Stephanie, I have sort of a two-part question. I think building on what you were just saying about Pittsburgh and Chicago and some other places, I wondered if there were other examples that you particularly heard about during Connected Educator Month that you thought were interesting, of how other districts are handling whole community engagement as it relates to your own practices. And then sort of going forward, we really want to see Connected Educator Month involve more teachers and more students and community members going forward. And so I wondered if you had any thoughts for us about what we ought to be doing better or differently in 2015 to sort of continue this theme of whole community engagement and really make whole community engagement part of what Connected Educator Month is about as well.
That is, Keisha and I know we don't have our cameras on, but we're both like shaking our heads yes and getting excited about this question. So I think one of the greatest examples, and Nashville's actually stolen from them. We were talking about Chicago having trouble, engaging some of the community, but some of the stuff that they've done just with their local government funds, especially for teenagers, I just find, pretty powerful and amazing. One of the I loved hearing the stories about Chicago. Students' IDs serve as their bus pass, their library card, and they get badges for attending different programs throughout the city. And I just think that is so amazing. Everybody, whether it's in schools or local government or business, is all pulled in 100 different directions, and something as simple as a student ID card that can serve so many purposes, and everybody coming together to make sure that teens have the programming that they need. Listening to that, it was just like an aha moment that makes complete sense. So whether you're a large city like Chicago or something even smaller, small cities or small towns do ID cards too. What if it served as their library card? What if it allowed them to get discounts into other community events? That just made complete sense to me. And I actually have to say, Nashville, here they just started because of Chicago. Their student ID cards serve as their MTA bus passes here in Nashville. So students also realize, the importance of having that ID card with them too, because it gets them to school every day. So I would have to say that's probably what I just think is a great national model for any city across the U.S. or across the world to use.
Yeah. As far as the second part of your question on Connected Educator Month, I think for me it's kind of like Black History Month. It's not just a month. So we shouldn't segment it to a month. We shouldn't restrict it to that. I think that to keep an online community, and maybe there was so much going on in that month, I'm positive you had content that would have lasted all year. And maybe there can be certain topics that are highlighted in a given month. So people don't have to select and maybe, like we did the community engagement, but I'm sure other people would have liked to participate in some of the stuff, but they just didn't have time because they wanted to do some of the stuff Mike Lawrence was doing. So if it was segmented out and there was Connected Educator Lifeline or Connected Educator whatever Cheryl's good at naming things like that. Then there could be topic of the month, and you get your experts together every month, or maybe quarters or something. But I feel pretty strongly that it would be something that could be stretched out. I know it's super time consuming, and y'all are amazing at it, but it's really important for teachers to have a place to plug in. Not all teachers can afford an association membership. Not all teachers know where to go or how to get started. And so if they could search online and find just kind of a natural place to gravitate to, it could become a repository where they can learn about associations. Maybe 1 month is professional associations. Maybe 1 month is, professional growth. Like, what does good PD look like? Because some teachers, I'm sure, have never seen it. So I just think it could be a very powerful program if it were extended and kind of ongoing.
I'm going to add one more thing to that, too. Keisha was talking my language right there, where there was just so much. Trying to choose was a difficult thing. So I think it's also for any district leaders that are listening to, or school leaders, also looking strategically at that calendar and what aligns with your goals or your strategic plan for your school, and encouraging your teachers to attend those events online or participate, because there's so much to choose from. A kid in a candy store, sometimes you don't know where to start. So as a leader, encouraging teachers to participate in what aligns with your goals.
That's I really appreciate both of you saying that, because that's really a direction that we, Connected Educator Month, want to take this, especially in 2015, and to really think far beyond just a month, but to see it as something that's just ongoing. John?
Yeah, I think that kid in the candy store quote is great, because it's a great problem to have, too many choices to connect with one another, and not just with one another, but with, like we've been talking about here, other potential partners and people in the community that can help out as well. So I know we've been talking about Connected Educator Month as this really great opportunity for educators to connect with other educators, school admins to connect with other school admins, and I was wondering for Keisha and Stephanie in particular, if you had any resources or kind of go-to communities that you see for educators specifically to get in touch with potential community partners, or with their local libraries, museums, out-of-school learning spaces, as opposed to just other educators like them. Where can educators go? Who can they talk to? What are some things online that they can check out?
Well, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say they can always go to ISTE. We're a happy home for every happy educator, and even a few unhappy ones. But I also think that there's professional organizations, and then there's kind of communities, and I do see ISTE as more of a community. I see like ALA, where Stephanie is more of a professional organization. Yep. And so I think that's stuff that they're not taught in their pre-service. They're not taught. These are all the things that you can participate in and should, so that you can keep this learning going as you graduate from school. So to have, kind of a list or a way that we can keep up with all of those, ASCD, ISTE, the Elementary Principals Association, Secondary Principals Association, ALA, ASL, there's so many of them. But there's also Twitter. And Twitter is a universe that if teachers could just sign up, we do that with all of our teachers. We're like, we're just going to sign you up, and you don't even have to tweet. You don't even have to do anything. You're just going to go in this little search thing, looks like a little magnifying glass, and you're going to type in hashtag blank. And we tell them, hashtag we do EdChat, or Stephanie has TL Chat. So
look up MMPS LibHack, all librarians.
MMPS LibHack. So we run Twitter chats, and teachers can, they can voyeur in on them and not ever participate, but it's a resource that they can go back to. We also like to send them to pages that compile a lot of resources from a lot of different places and put them in one place. So there's several of those that we send out to our teachers. Once they get out of school, their learning shouldn't cease. And once they get out of school, they shouldn't just be able to talk about 5th grade math. They should be able to talk about the field of professional education, which is the field they chose. And so I'm pretty strong in my feelings about that. And I feel that, I tell my team all the time, we have to make sure that we're always pushing that kind of research and academic conversation, because it's really easy when you teach 2nd grade to just talk about 2nd grade. And you're not a 2nd grader, you're a professional educator. So getting them to kind of think in that higher research realm is what we're trying to do constantly, and we try to send them to resources that will kind of fulfill that need for us.
That's perfect. So, as is usually the case in this particular webinar series, 60 minutes has pretty much flown by. We are officially out of time here, but I did want to say thank you again, Keisha and Stephanie, for joining us, and then also a shout out to Cheryl and Tom here for really helping out with this particular series for the past couple months. There we get I'll pull you up real quick. We get a quick video shot of the two, Keisha and Stephanie. Thanks again for risking the bandwidth for a few seconds.
Yes. We wanted everybody to know we really did exist.
Yes. There is 2 of us in this room.
We're not puppets.
Thank you, you too. So this does mark the last of our, again, webinars for the calendar year 2014. And we're going to have a full video recording of this webinar per usual on www.connectedlearning.tv with other curated content along the way, especially helpful for those that didn't get a chance to catch us live today. And that doesn't mean that our conversations just have to end here about Connected Educator Month like we've been talking about throughout this entire series. There's a real movement now to expand it outside of just the 30 or 31 calendar days. So I hope you guys will keep using the hashtag CE14, and I assume it'll eventually change to CE15 once we have the agenda up for next year. And by making new friends within the Connected Learning Google Plus community and also the Connected Educators social network. And like we also mentioned, this is kind of the first year that Connected Educator Month successfully went global, international. And I hope you'll consider donating to the Connected Educator Month effort on CrowdRise, and that's www.crowdrise.com/connectededucatormonth. And you can also sign up for newsletter updates at connectededucators.org. And the last little spiel here, speaking of newsletters, if you'd like to know more about upcoming webinars from this particular series in 2015, visit, again, the website www.connectedlearning.tv and sign up for the email newsletter there. So thank you again, everyone. Much appreciated.
Thank you, John. We appreciate it too. We had fun.